ever since the Raptor's introduction, it's always had some kind of vents on the hood. Gen 1 Raptor had 2 vents. Gen 2 and Gen 3 Raptors have 1 larger vents. According to Ford, they're functional vents. But if you've ever actually looked at it, it doesn't appear like there's that much airflow going through there. Mine are a little bit worse for wear, but when you're looking at these, right in between the actual fins, because you would actually expect the fins to be the ones that allow the airflow to go through, but it's not. There's actually vents in between. There's this very small opening for the large space that the vents are taking up. And the vents are also plastic, and with Gen 1 Raptors quickly approaching 10 years old at minimum, those plastic pieces are starting to look a little ugly. If you look at mine, mine's a 2014. She's only had 64,000 miles on her, and the vents are starting to look pretty ugly. I really don't like how much these stick out and how cheap they look. I've never been a fan of just plastic trim pieces in general, right? Because they don't age well, and if you look at mine are turning white. I've always struggled with finding a solution that would replace those, and I wanted a solution that, one, would improve the airflow going through here and really open this up and improve the cooling overall, because the Gen 1 Raptors do need cooling help. In fact, all the trucks need some form of cooling help, especially when you start upgrading them. Mine is supercharged, so she does need a little help with cooling, and I am going to look at doing options up front, but to start, I'm going to improve the styling of the truck, give her a nicer look, and replace it with some vents that look much better than these ugly plastic ones. So these are what we're going to be installing. These are Grove Fabworks vents for the Gen 1 Raptor. These are made out of aluminum and powder coated. You can get these raw, or you can get these in powder coated black. I ended up getting mine's raw and then had them powder coat this color, and it's kind of like a gunmetal gray, because with the truck being all black, I wanted these to stand out a little bit. I think if I did black, it wouldn't look right with the rest of the glossy paint, so wanted a slightly different look. These are aluminum. You can see quite a bit more flow through these things, quite a bit more. Based on a test that one of the first guys to install these did, there's a significant drop in the temperatures in the engine bay. I know some of you guys are gonna, freak out. It's gonna let more water in. Maybe Ford wanted to restrict the amount of airflow going through there for a reason. And you're right. With these, you will see more water in the engine bay. But everything in your engine bay is waterproof. And whatever is not is covered up, like your fuse panels. That's completely covered up so that it can be waterproof. Adding this extra on here and more water getting in, it's not gonna damage anything. Your hood's fiberglass, so that's not gonna rust if you cut it. And everything in your engine bay is designed to get wet. I mean, I've gotten so many times mudding in, I've had all kinds of nice thin layer of mud because tons of water gets in the engine bay. Everything's designed to get wet. Now, the second argument is, well, maybe Ford wanted to restrict the amount of airflow for a reason, and there probably is some truth to that, but most of your cooling on these trucks is done in the front of the engine, right? Through the actual radiators, right? The actual flow getting pushed through there. If you don't have like all your cladding around the radiators and all that stuff to create that air dam of airflow going through the radiators, yes, this could cause some issues, right? Because the air is going to flow over the top of the radiator rather than through it. So make sure that, you got your proper panels and all that stuff in there, in the proper configuration with the air dams in place. This is going to improve cooling. And second, just get to look better. The fins aren't going to stick out. It's going to be a whole lot more lower profile. It's going to look better. This is probably more appropriate for systems with sealed air boxes. When you have a fully sealed air box like the SMBs or even the factory ones, this solution's perfect. For those that have open air boxes like the ones with the Roush, like mine, you are going to have to modify your plan a little bit. I don't know what that actually entails, so we're going to play it out in mine. We're going to see how much trimming we have to do and if we have to add an extra piece so that there's no extra water going into our filter element, because that's not a good thing. Even though that's an oil-based filter and is designed to get a little wet, we obviously don't want to get too soaking wet. So we'll have to take a look at that piece. That is one of the concerns I do have with this solution, but regardless, this is going on and the truck's getting a much better look. It's yet another really great option from Richard down at Grove Fabworks. If you don't know who he is and you own a Gen 1, make sure you give him a follow. Richard is coming out with some really cool stuff for the Gen 1. He's doing dome lights, he's doing bed racks. He's even got one where you can do a light bar on the bottom there for those that want to have that look. He's got a lot of really cool ideas, and he's one of the few shops still giving the Gen 1 Raptors some love with new products. So make sure you guys check him out. Now, one last thing with disclosures, because people are idiots. I paid for these myself out of pocket. Richard does some great work for the Raptor community, and I wanted to make sure to support him. So I paid for these out of my own pocket. No discounts were given for this. We're gonna go ahead and get in on the install. We're gonna go ahead and cut up our hood and get this installed. First step is to take off the hairy cardboard from the hood. Put it back in. I don't want to lose it. That's fun. I thought you were tall, Ethan.
Oh, I thought you were taller.
You sounded a little taller on the radio.
You sound a little taller on radio.
You forgot one over there too.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
I'm looking at it. You forgot one.
No, I didn't. I didn't forget one.
I did not.
I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
I didn't forget it. What are you talking about? Yeah, there's nothing over here. Just give me 1 sec. Just don't look this way. Just give me a second. Don't look this way.
It's only on the internet.
There's only 2 cameras looking at me, plus you.
This was our first look at the actual openings for the vents, and those stock openings are tiny. They're so restrictive. There's very little air actually flowing through there. To remove the stock vents, your first step is to actually open up the hood and take off the nuts on the bottom of the hood.
Ooh. Can't use that anymore. It's sheared.
Broke?
It broke. It broke, it.
It's a drawback with an old truck.
It's a drawback with an abused truck, not old.
Get the inside out. That one break off?
Yep. We don't need them.
It broke off too?
We don't need them. We don't need them.
Fuck.
Timu bolts. We need someone tall to close the hood because you can't reach it. Closed.
Next, you'll actually want to pop off the stock vent, and it's actually not that easy. There is a total of 8 clips holding this in place. You have these 4 clips here on the midpoints, and then you have these circular clips that you have to snap off in order to get it off. So it is going to require some force. Just pry in there, find a corner where you can really pry it out, and it'll pop off. But total, 8 clips holding this in place.
Why are we removing these again?
Better airflow.
Doesn't it mean more dust in the engine?
Exactly what I said. Doesn't it mean worse?
You having a hard time? We need to start up front, anything?
I don't know. We need to start somewhere. Somewhere where I can grab it. Not there.
You're not grabbing it right there. You have to
No,
get
I'm
into
not
it.
grabbing anywhere.
Why'd you just drill holes in it and stomp on it?
Maybe from a corner.
There you go. And it is going to be a tight pop, so.
Oh, perfect.
The pop is normal. There you go.
Oh, it doesn't matter if we break it. We're gonna cut it.
Well, it's brittle. It's an old truck. It's going to break no matter what.
It's gonna shatter.
You know what?
There you go. Con huevos. See? 1 in each corner. Or 3 of them.
4. No, that's 3. Yeah, you're right. I can't count. Plus the middle one.
Same tactic. Pick a corner. Any corner.
Well, laugh if your hood splits in 2.
I would be laughing. Just gotta get 1 off. What the fuck?
I'm waiting for him to whack his head.
Shut up! It's gonna happen eventually. These ones are stubborn.
Because it's a combination of clips and, there you go. Ooh, careful, careful.
I wanna break it. It's something we're not using no more, so I'm gonna break it.
You might be able to sell it for money.
Yeah, just put your logo on it. It's worth a fortune at that point. Now what's holding this in?
Those 3 clips on the bottom.
Oh, those. Okay, it's out.
Once the vents are out, now you need to remove those corner clips. Good job.
We don't need it. See what happens when I leave my hand out the way? You lose something. You find it? I found it! I got it. Got them all? No. Only got 10.
Next up is all the cutting. Now, I do recommend that you do like a large moving blanket over your engine bay to cover up your engine bay and capture all that fiberglass dust and all the mess you're gonna make cutting into the vents. It's gonna protect your engine, and it's also gonna make cleanup a whole lot easier once you're done. I don't want
Shrapnel in the engine.
fiberglass shavings all over the engine.
He doesn't want shrapnel in the engine, but you know. It's already dirty as it is.
I don't know.
Next, you're gonna wanna cut out those stainless steel rivets at the very top of the vents. Now these are stainless steel and they're not gonna be that easy to cut out. We actually struggled here. This world is on fire. We burned through a few bits trying to drill those out, and it's just what happens when you drill stainless steel. You gotta have high quality bits, and we didn't have high quality bits.
And this, my friends, is how you make fire.
But eventually we did give up and started to cut it. I do recommend drilling it first and then cutting it away if you need to, if you're struggled like we did. You know what? Let's get the Dremel out. I'm tired of fucking with this thing. There we go. That sucked.
That was like fun.
Now, before you start cutting, you do want to prep the area to protect your paint on the hood. So we ended up cleaning our hood area really good, laying down some painter's tape, and then putting down some paper on top of that to protect the hood from all the cutting and debris that's going to go flying. Now, your first cup is that little hump at the top of the vents. Cut and grind it down flat. Once that little hump is cut out, that's where this template comes into play. This is a cutting template that comes with the kit, and make sure that you're using the correct side. There's little labels on it that tell you if it's the front or back, and it actually is side specific so that you can do your cutting and your drilling correctly. So that's the driver's side and that's the front. Once you have your template placed in the correct size of the correct orientation, then you want to use that inside edge of the template to mark off the area you're going to cut off. Now it's time to cut. Now when it comes to cutting, Dremel is really your best option because you can pick the size of your cutting wheel, right? You can go as small as 1 inch, and you can also control the speed of most Dremel tools because you don't need that much speed to cut into fiberglass. A 3.5, 4 inch cutting wheel can also work here, but obviously it's going to give you less fine control that you will get with a Dremel tool. It will still work, but the corners are going to be a little bit more difficult to do. All right, let's see the vent. I just want to see how tight this vent's going to be. Oh yeah, look at that, it's going to be super tight. Now, I do recommend going through first and doing a rough cut, just a little bit inside of the marked lines, and then doing a test fit to see where you have to trim and the areas you have to adjust. Because some of those deeper areas on the lower section of the hood, you will have to do a little bit of fine-tune adjustments to make sure that all the vents and everything clears. All right, there's the cut. It's not the prettiest to cut, but it doesn't have to be. Now we just gotta see if it fits, and then we gotta see where our holes are gonna be.
Need to cut more.
Maybe right here and down here.
Right down there.
Like that side, I could probably go a little bit
Yeah, that side
closer.
can probably go closer, but this right here needs to go.
So let's mark that off. Right there, and then right there. Okay. Okay.
You can like square that out.
You getting annoyed watching me cut?
Yep.
You want to do the other side?
Sure.
All right, let me finish this side, and then you do the other side. And guys, take your time doing this. This is your hood. You're only gonna cut once, so take your time. Make sure you do it right. Okay, that fits better down there.
Yep.
No interference over here.
Watch your hand.
I think that's it.
Yep, watch your hand.
Next is a very important step. Before you drill any holes, place the vent down and use that to find your corner holes on the hood. If you don't, you could end up drilling the holes slightly off and the vents won't fit perfectly. We actually ended up having this issue. The actual template can fit tighter against your hood than the actual vents can. So you want to make sure that you use the vents to find the 4 corners and then use the template to mark the rest before you start drilling. Otherwise, you will end up like we did with having to drill extra holes at the end. We do have a challenge here though. This side, I have to keep this in. So on the other side, we're actually going to cut that out. But on this side, we got to keep it in because the intake goes up to here. Now the template also comes in helpful because we actually used it to actually drill the holes. You know, it's very easy to try to drill on paint or slippery surfaces like that and the slips. So what we did is we drilled our first hole, put the bolt in, and then used the template to kind of hold everything in place to make sure that all of our bolt holes were drilled in the right location. Highly recommend it. Another great useful tip for using that template and why it's so key for this kit to make it an easy install. Once you're done drilling the main holes, you will need to access these holes from underneath, in order to tighten the nuts. So using the holes you just drilled, go ahead and drill through the second layer of the hood so you have a pilot hole to drill a much larger hole from underneath that'll fit a socket. This hole doesn't have to be that big. It could be about a 1/2 inch drill bit, just large enough to fit the socket that you're gonna need in order to tighten the nut from underneath. Just keep in mind too that the corner might be a little bit more challenging, and in the corner we actually use the cutoff bit, the Dremel tool, to cut off that area so that we can get our bits in.
Nice screws your truck.
And then you just repeat the process on the passenger side. Now here is where we screwed up. Rather than use the vent to mark the first hole placement, we used the template. Like I said before, the template can fit much tighter against the hood than the actual vents can. So some of the holes were a little bit off of alignment and wouldn't allow us to get the bolts through. Now on the passenger side, the opening is gonna be bigger. There's no intake or anything like that, like our trucks has a Roush intake. So we went ahead and cut the whole structure underneath to make the opening as large as possible. If you have an enclosed intake on the driver's side, you can do the same thing there. It is up to you. Just those with the Roush intake or the open intakes, make sure you leave a little bit extra because you do need to protect the water from going into your intake. This next step is optional, and that's painting the fiberglass edges. Now, it is fiberglass, so it's not gonna rust on you, but it's also fiberglass, so that means that after you cut it, it's gonna be white, very white. I highly recommend putting some automotive paint through there. We ended up using some black paint that we have to kind of mask those edges and also kind of keep everything together. It is fiberglass, so it doesn't hurt to put some paint on there. You don't have to, but we recommend it. We ended up doing 2 coats of paint, and don't forget to lift up the hood and paint from underneath. We did on the passenger side, and we ended up with some line spots from underneath, and we had already removed all the maskings, and I didn't want any overspray on my hood. So just make sure to remember, lift up the hood and paint from underneath too. So that right there is my only concern. And I may need to add like some kind of plastic on there to kind of cover that. Not sure, I'll have to see and play it by ear. Normally you would want to cut this out, but we didn't cut that out because this side has that Roush intake. Who knows, maybe that'll improve my airflow in there, I don't know. And on the other side, we did quite a bit of more cutting out. Once the paint has had a chance to properly dry and set, we went ahead and reinstalled the hairy cardboard to mark up where we needed to cut it. Okay, now this side we do need to do a little bit different because of the Roush box. So I'm actually gonna leave most of this in place until I can figure out a better solution to cover the Roush box. So I'm actually gonna, gonna leave some space. Roush box is about there, so I'm gonna do. So yeah, that one's gonna be a little bit less opening, but it'll work. Cutting the hairy cardboard is easy with just a simple pair of scissors. Just make sure they're sharp. Now we can finally install the vents. We got all the top bolts in and aligned. And then my son came in from the bottom to tighten them up. Be careful not to lose the nuts inside of the hood. And here's where we discovered our screw up on the passenger side and had to drill some of the holes. Lastly, reinstall the hairy cardboard and don't forget the grounding strap. Oh, that looks good. Now we just gotta clean it up. Cause she dirty because of our drilling.
Oh, we don't have any.
And you guys can see that's where it normally touches. So that'll still stay semi-protected, sort of. Yeah, I think later on I gotta add some ABS there, but we'll figure that out later. Now look at that opening difference from stock. There's gonna be a ton more airflow going through there, and nice little byproduct, they look amazing. I really like that lower profile look. I didn't like the stock look that kind of stuck out and had that rib look. I like the lower profile look. If you want a set, go to grovefabworks.com. They start at just under $450 for a raw aluminum ones if you want to get them powder coated yourself and just install them in raw aluminum, or $500 to get them powder coat black. Grove doesn't do custom colors. They only do black or raw. If you want to do a custom color, it's up to you to get that set up. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the other cool stuff from Grove Fabworks. They're doing a lot of cool upgrades for the trucks. They're doing jack mounts for the Harbor Freight jacks. He's doing a ton of new options and new upgrades for the Gen 1 that nobody has done before. And we're going to be doing his dome light next, but he's got dome lights, map lights, he's got floodlight options. Richard is giving the Gen 1 platform some love. So if you're a Gen 1 owner, go to grovefabworks.com and see some of the cool products he's got brewing, and he's got more coming, guys. All right, guys, questions or comments below. Please consider subscribing. That's the best way you can support this channel. So just hit that subscribe, and thank you guys for watching.